this week's Cruise Chat. I'm Kathleen Penner, owner of Plenty of Sunshine Travel, and today I'm joined by Charmaine. And Charmaine is from Tauck Cruises, and I'm really excited to learn all about the things that we're going to talk about today. I have met with her, oh goodness, what has it been, 3, 4 times? I'm
I
not even
think
sure.
4 maybe.
Could be,
Yeah.
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 And what I do is for each of the cruise lines that I meet, I have a playlist. So make sure you click on that playlist, look back at all the exciting topics that we've talked about. That way you'll be caught up just like we are. So over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Kathleen. Welcome, everyone, and happy to be here with you again to talk about cruising. And today, what Kathleen and I had talked about earlier was that is the term all-inclusive. Oh, I went too far. But first, let me introduce Tauck to you for any of you maybe that are joining Tauck for the very first time. And we have a few photos in the archives, and this is one of my favorite. But just as I said, Tauck is a family-owned and operated company that's been around since 1925, and we're still owned and operated by the family, the Tauck family.
Okay.
Third generation is still very active on the board of directors, participating in all the decisions. And certainly there's been lots of challenging ones over the last little while, but things are starting to look a little better despite some of the current news. So we're hoping that I think just giving you that assurance that we're a company that has survived many, many things over the last while. So it's, again, just that wonderful story. And this was not the very first trip. This was a few years in. And one of the things I've always noticed about the photo is that it's predominantly women.
It is,
So I think that not to discourage men from traveling with us, but I think back in the early days, they perhaps had the time and the money and the interest more than anything, I think, to learn more about the world. So anyway,
I think I only see like 3, maybe 4 males, and they're
and
all
they're
on top of the
probably
trucks.
they're probably the drivers. Is my thought.
Amazing.
But who knows? Somebody may have brought somebody along. In fact, just looking at the gentleman on the left one, that he looks a lot like Arthur Tauck Jr. So that might be his father that's sitting up there. I can't tell for sure. So, but it does similar profile.
Yes.
So so what we've done from the very beginning with all of our journeys, and we refer to the people on the team who design our programs as architects. And I think that really is a great description in the sense that it's how they design and plan each of our journeys very carefully. We very carefully read our comment cards, our letters that we get from our guests, all of the emails, I should say, and that helps us sort of design and plan. And then again, as I said, it really speaks to what you and I had talked about earlier was, what does all-inclusive really mean? And lots of companies out there use it rather loosely in some cases, when you're talking about the Caribbean or a resort holiday, but even cruise lines who often say they are. And then I always find an interest that they'll, have a special on that may say, oh, here's an onboard credit. Well, if everything was included, you wouldn't need that. You wouldn't need the onboard credit. However, I will tell you the one thing that is not on the list is that we don't include your shopping. So you could use that credit to go buy something in the gift shop. So in all fairness, and then we also don't include the air. So you always have to get wherever the journey is, but truly, especially on water. So with our river cruising and our small ship programs, you really do have everything. There's virtually, you can take a trip with us and have no credit card bill at the end of the trip, except for shopping.
To not have to think about, this is racking up. What should I do?
Exactly. And I think that, again, speaks to why we do what we do. So Arthur Tauck recognized on those first few trips back in the 1920s that when he included everything in the price up front, the guests were more relaxed right away. They were right on the journey. They didn't have to take themselves out or stop to think. I mean, back then it might have been 5 cents. Today it's a little more than that. But even if it's just $20, you're going to stop to think about whether you want to do that or not. And then you're not focused on what you came to see. So what I'm going to show first then is a video that's our small ship cruise to Antarctica. Yeah, and then it'll also illustrate some of the things that we include. Oh, I went too far. Hold on. Minor technical moment here while we zoom off.
Travel back in time to the end of the earth, where wildlife doesn't fear you. Mountains have no boundaries. And first-class travel has no equal.
We said, hey, when we go to Antarctica, let's go with Tauck. We know it'll be top-notch.
Your journey begins with 2 exciting days in Buenos Aires, followed by a flight to Ushuaia, the tip of South America. Enjoy an Argentinian barbecue in the spectacular Tierra del Fuego National Park before boarding your ship and heading through the Beagle Channel and across the Drake Passage on an expedition to Antarctica, where no 2 routes are alike.
There's always a surprise with the Tauck trip.
Every cruise is different, either due to the weather, the captain's choices, or the slots that we could take.
There are lectures on board. It's a great educational component. It further excites the guests as to what's coming.
Onboard enthusiasm accelerates. Icebergs larger than the island of Manhattan rise in the distance, where a spectrum of blue will dazzle you, alongside porpoising penguins, dolphins, and breaching whales.
You can sit there and watch the penguins walk by, and they're not afraid of you.
Every second is a photo op, because there's so much to see.
Unlike large ships, our vessels navigate through tight channels amidst the most dramatic, untouched landscape on Earth, so you can step ashore where few have ventured before.
You are not allowed to have more than 100 passengers on shore at any given time in Antarctica. We max at 200 passengers. We take groups of 100, gives you plenty of time to explore the site.
The ship is so nimble, and they're able to maneuver it so well. We're actually able to sail the ship into this caldera of a volcano.
Just being able to get off the ship and walking around on shore was really magical.
An intimate setting connects adventurous world travelers as passionate naturalists guide you through the marvels of Antarctica.
Tauck directors work so well as a team.
Their knowledge, their fun, enthusiasm.
I'm completely ruined for travel in any other way other than with Tauck. Standing on an ice floe was amazing. Having champagne on the ice floe was even better.
The long hours of the Antarctic summer light will fill you with magical moments that will inspire for a lifetime.
So there you go. Isn't that
Sign
so
me up.
amazing?
Goodness, that looked gorgeous. Wow.
Right? And it actually even makes cold weather look good.
And look desirable, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In the summer months. So yes, exactly. As I was saying earlier, they referred to lots of things that we're going to talk about now over the next little bit. But one of the things I did want to mention is that the coat's included, in case you wondered why everybody had a matching jacket, so that everybody gets the complimentary jacket. I mean, some of us, certainly in our part of the world, probably has a coat that's suitable, but in any case, we want to make sure everybody can enjoy that. So that's included as well. So what I'll do then today is just sort of highlight a few things that we do include. If I miss anything, or if you think I've forgotten something, Kathleen, by all means, interrupt. So these are just some of the places that we go. So we do cover a large portion of the world on our small ship program, and then river cruising is all predominantly in Europe. There's the odd itinerary where we have a day trip or something, but for the most part, what we'll talk about with river is all going to be in Europe. And so I think, as I said, one of the things that we learned as a company over our 95 plus years is that we didn't maybe include quite as many things in the beginning. For example, on river cruising, initially when we offered it, it was wine and beer with lunch and dinner, and then a cocktail hour every night at around 4:30, 5 o'clock, so that guests would come down, listen to the briefing. And then what we were realizing was that people were not being social. They were sort of hanging out maybe in their room or
Oh.
somewhere else on the ship, and then coming together at 4:30 and to have that complimentary drink and to talk about their day. And so Arthur was like, this is silly. Why should we decide when people should be social with each other? I mean, obviously we want them to still come to the welcome dinner or the welcome or the introductory briefings for the next day, but people do anyway. But that's why then if, you want to congregate with friends and have a beverage, whatever that might be, a specialty coffee or even a soda, which we all know in Europe can be as expensive as a glass of wine.
Yeah.
But it was really, we changed that policy because it didn't change our pricing any because we were still buying, a number of drinks anyway. But it really just meant that the choice was the guest, and again, not making them feel that this was the time of the day to get together when that might not necessarily be. So, as with all of our river and our small ship program, we don't own any of the ships, but we have incredible partners that we've worked with for many, many years, especially Penant. We've been working with them since we started. We've been a very long time partner and their largest partner out there. So most of the itineraries I'll show you are with them, and their ships range in size from, they have a small sailing ship that we use in the Mediterranean, which is about 60 guests, I think, still. And their largest ships, the ones that are built and designed for Antarctica, the one you saw in the video, that would hold about 220. We usually sail with about 200. And sometimes we charter the whole ships on some cases. Other times we block space. So on the small one, the small sailing ship with Penant, the small ship that we use with Metropolitan in the Galapagos, which is 40 guests, it's a full charter. So other times, as I said, we may just be groups on the ship itself, but always with our directors, and I'll talk some more about that. One of our newer partners, I should say, with Silver Sea, we have a couple of itineraries that we do with them. And then also we have a couple of itineraries with the wonderful Windstar as well. So I'm sure many people listening in are familiar with some of them, but maybe not so much with Penant and Metropolitan. So we'll talk a little bit more about them as well as we go along. So first, what I'll show you is a few of our small ship programs. This is one that came about obviously because people want to see more in depth. I mean, you can visit Scotland on a typical sort of land journey, or maybe you've touched on it, on another small ship program. But with the smaller ships, we're allowed to go and able to go visiting more of the islands to really give you that incredible way to see in depth a lot more of Scotland, because so much of it is on islands as opposed to, well, the whole thing is an island. So what am I saying? Referring to it as the mainland. It's not attached, Charmaine. I'll be okay. So yeah, we do different things here. I know. Yeah. So we do safaris. And the other thing that we always like to do with our small ship and river is give you choices of excursions. So some people might want something a little more active. Some people might want things a little more traditional. In all cases, you'll be able to pick what you would like to do in advance of the trip. And then, as I said, we include lots of different things, and the choices are all included. So it's not like, well, these two are included, but you have to pay for this, more in depth, or, they call them all, the cruise lines call them all different things, but at Tauck, they're all included. And for example, that beautiful castle you see there on the right is one of my favorite things to see in Edinburgh. And that's Holyrood House. So we actually go for a private tour of this beautiful palace so that you really get to experience it similarly as if you live there. And again, lots of other ones that we do as well too. So this is let me just look it up. We've got a 7-night cruise here. This is with Penant. So we have one of their ships, and then it also includes 2 hotel nights in Edinburgh and 2 hotel nights in Glasgow, and it goes in both directions. So it can be so again, taking care of everything, all the gratuities, as well with on any of the journeys that we're going to talk about. So we'll go somewhere a little bit warmer for a couple of minutes, and down south to 2 of my favorite places, Peru and the Galapagos. So interestingly enough, when you're in the Galapagos, you can still see penguins. just because of the Humboldt current that has carried a few, and it's a bit colder waters when you're in that part of the area. So again, just a fabulous way. You sort of spend 6 nights cruising in the Galapagos Islands, which really gives you a great overview of the islands itself. And then we spend a week in Peru as well with Machu Picchu. And I mean, obviously, we include all the main sightseeing and again, different excursions on the land side of things. And really, even with the Galapagos, there's not as many choices per se, because really what we're doing is sort of focusing on, where we get off the ship. And in the case of Peru, you're generally traveling as a group. So the choices are, again, lots of wonderful things that we include, and Machu Picchu being the star of the show.
Right, absolutely.
Right. And what we do on the itinerary when we work with Metropolitan on the Isabella, is that the guests get to stay at the Belmont Sanctuary Lodge. So that little chair is reserved for them, and they get to see Machu Picchu early in the morning, late in the evening, when it's now closed to the public, and just gives you a spectacular window into what is absolutely amazing. And as I said, there's lots of other fun things. We get to go visit a horse farm and a beautiful old colonial home for a lunch. And again, all things included. Now, just as a quick side note on the land side of it, when we're touring Peru, you're not necessarily going to have every meal included like you will on the ships, simply because a lot of times, we include more typically on any of our exotic programs, simply because there may not always be the same amount of choices, or guests may not feel as comfortable. But Peru has spectacular food. They're well known for their gastronomy. And so we know that guests sometimes like to sort of, go and find something different. But again, our directors will be there to help them with all of that as well, too. So staying a little closer to home. So next summer, we have a new itinerary. It's not really a new itinerary. We've kind of done Alaska, and we have gone there, of course, recently, but this is a new partner in the sense that we're now going to be offering Alaska with Silver Sea. So very excited about that. Beautiful ship, brand new, the Silver Shadow.
It is, yeah.
And again, like everything we do, what makes us different and unique from looking directly with the cruise line is that we've included a hotel night in Vancouver and a hotel night in Anchorage. So again, that allows us to give a more in-depth experience. Again, all the excursions, drinks, gratuities, everything are going to be included. No guarantees, of course, that you're going to be able to take that spectacular photo of a whale. Yes, I would love to know how that was done. But you will, again, we never promise what Mother Nature is going to deliver on any journey that we do, but chances are really, really good that on any of these itineraries, you're going to get to see some wildlife.
Absolutely.
And glaciers.
Yeah, it's hard, if you were to say, you're going to see whales, then it's like, oh, but you guaranteed it. You can't train a whale to come up. So
no, you cannot.
But the opportunity is still there.
Exactly. And I think that that's what makes, what I think personally, what makes it so fun is that everybody's journey will be different, and there will be unique opportunities. And when we were talking about the Galapagos, it doesn't really matter what time of year you go. Obviously, you can't go to Alaska all year round, but with the Galapagos at any given month, different things are happening. So what I saw when I went in January versus a friend of mine who went in May, some of the core, obviously the tortoises are there. They're not going anywhere. They probably had only moved 2 feet from when I saw them in January to when my friend went in April. But it really is, that's what makes it fun, and I think I think my husband said it to me when we were on our Africa journey one time, was that every day is a new journey, and you don't know, you're like a kid again. Every morning you wake up and you're all excited about what might happen. So I think that's the always to keep that in mind wherever you travel. It doesn't matter whether you're looking for wildlife or what it might be, that we certainly can promise you certain things, but no guarantees of everything.
Right. I love that about not only small ship, but expedition cruising.
Yes.
Where they're going to go where the best spots are for you at that time.
Exactly.
And I
And
think that's
Melissa,
great.
exactly. And Melissa was one of our directors. A number of our tour directors were narrating in that video.
Mhm.
And just because I know her, she's from Montreal. Her comment was, every itinerary to Antarctica follows a different path because it
Mhm.
varies by weather and whatever's happened to be going on. So it's not like like Peter Tauck showed you on the map. It really varies with every trip. And that's the beauty, again, as you said, with expedition, with smaller ship cruising. And what I think more and more people are going to be looking for going forward in our world is that this is really the way to go. I mean, you have less people when you visit anywhere. It's not an invasion of a town. It's
Mhm.
just a couple of hundred people or less. And so the Boreal, there's L'Austral and the L'Oreal, or everything with Ponant is with a le or in front
Yeah.
of it, because
Yep.
they're a French-owned company. The Pinot family own a number of companies. They got bought Ponant because as a very proud family business, they own Gucci, they own a lot of different things, but they really felt that Ponant was this wonderful little French treasure of a cruise line that was started by captains. A few captains got together and built the first one, which was the 60 guest Le Ponant. And then gradually they got a little bit bigger. And now with the new family taking over, they've been able to put more money into it. So truly fabulous. They don't have there's no casinos on board.
Mhm.
It's really focusing on ships that make great use of the destination itself. So, so they have the bigger ships, and then they have a little bit smaller expedition ships that are about 180 guests. So
Mhm.
we'll use those on lots of the itineraries. But anyway, enough about the ship.
Great.
So let's go to river for a few minutes, and I'll just show you again here what we do and include a few different things.
Mhm.
So this is the beautiful Palais Pallavicini that's in Vienna. And I think a lot of companies love to offer an opportunity to visit a palace when they're in Vienna, but not all. And most of them you have to pay a little bit extra. And what Tauck believe truly, again, going back to what we've been doing since the beginning, is that if this is really worth seeing, we're going to include it. And so we take all of our guests, we do it on our family river cruises in addition to our regular programs. What we do there is a little bit different, but on all of our programs, you get this wonderful opportunity to sit in a room where Mozart has played. The hostess for the evening is also an opera singer. She tells you some stories about the palace and the family, the Pallavicini family that own it, and then you're entertained with ballet, with classical music. Again, all the things that one should get to experience, right, in
Yeah, the
Vienna.
history mixed with the culture is
Absolutely. And
amazing.
you're eating. I mean,
Yep.
I can't remember what I've eaten every time I've been, but I can tell you that what I remember is, of course, this beautiful palace and having cocktails in the room on the other side. So as I said, it's not just about sitting in chairs and watching a performance. It's about really feeling like a guest of the palace and having that full experience. And as I said, even when we do it with bridges on the kids programs, there's a waltzing lesson.
Okay.
So talk about an emotional heartstring when, mom or grandma gets to see her son step up and be able to take his first waltz lesson
Wow.
in a pretty
Amazing.
spectacular. Yeah, exactly.
I
So it's a
imagine there's a few
really,
tears on that one.
oh, for
Yeah.
sure. If you watch one of the videos on the website, you'll see it.
Yep.
This, of course, is the beautiful Monet Gardens of Giverny. And when we go on the Seine, so we have a couple of itineraries there. If you've ever seen it on television, you'll know that normally there are crowds and crowds of people, many of them hogging the little bridge that is so famous in many of Monet's paintings. So we have before it opens, opportunity so that the guests can really wander around, be able to take it all in and enjoy. I mean, not only just the fact that if you're a gardener, but just feeling like you've walked into a Monet painting and not having to share it with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other
Fabulous.
people,
Mhm.
right? And
And
we
it's so
go
iconic. I mean, as soon as you put on that picture, it's like, oh, Monet, done. Like you
right.
know it's
Yeah,
Monet.
you can exactly. And this way you really get to see what I know for myself. I'm a huge fan and have, a few copies of prints floating around the house. But when we when I finally got to be able to see it, and then you understood why he fell in love with this area and created these spectacular gardens that are so well cared for today. So again, yeah, and we go I never say it correctly, Calvados. Anyway, it's like an apple brandy. That they grow lots of apples, of course, in the Normandy area. So we go tastings for that. We go cheese tasting because there's lots of camembert and beautiful cheeses made in this area as well, too. So it's not just the gardens, but there's lots of other really amazing things. Now, we have a wonderful itinerary that does visit the Seine, but it actually starts or ends in London, England. And we include 2 amazing nights. And when I say amazing, if you're not familiar with the Savoy Hotel, just Google it. And it is spectacular. Anyway, so not only is it an amazing hotel, it's the perfect setting for another one of our partners, Celia Sands. So that's her on the right-hand side. And she is the granddaughter of Sir Winston Churchill. She's written books about him. And so she hosts a wonderful evening with our guests. It's a dinner. She speaks. She gets up there. Not only does she share history that some of us may be familiar with, but as a travel companion and being as he was her grandfather, she also has some very interesting anecdotes about what it was like to spend time privately with one of the most iconic people in history. So again, this is a wonderful way to either begin or end a wonderful trip. And the Seine, of course, lends itself so well. And we've got other wonderful World War II speakers and history that you'll get to see on that spectacular itinerary. But it's not always about history, and it's not always about art. We also go to Europe to cook. Or in my case, eat and drink. So one of our itineraries is Savoring France on the Rhone. So now we've moved to the southern part of France. We go to the Scook cooking school. Now attached to this school is a Michelin star restaurant. It's one of the few where the chef is a woman.
Okay.
Not in the photo. She doesn't run the class, but again, we get to go to this class or to her school and learn some of her little techniques. It's so much fun. And again, we also visit the school on our bridges, our family journeys. That's when I got to go there. And yeah, all the kids made fun of me because I'm a terrible cook. So anyway, but that's fine. I blew mine out.
You got to learn.
Yeah, it was a fusion, something or other that I totally blew up, which, I'm sure I went home in a lot of videos.
Nice.
And exactly. So as I said, what we love to do at Tauck is to take our guests behind the scenes. As you can see in the doorway there's a bit of a rope across. This is the, I just did a blank. It'll come to me. It's in Prague. It's a Strahov Monastery when we visit Prague. So again, with our river cruise on the Danube, we have one that includes 2 nights there, and we go to this beautiful monastery for a tour. We actually come in a different door. The lady has this giant, if you can picture the big antique key where she opens the door, allows us in from another entrance, and we get to tour. And the reason they can't have hundreds of people in these rooms is these books are very, very old. Now, I was permitted, you can see me kind of tucked in on the right-hand side there, sitting on the bench, but I had to be very careful not to lean back because behind me were books that were printed a few years ago.
They cannot be replaced at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. So again, they can only restrict it to small groups from time to time. And so again, we know that these are things that our guests love to experience in a more in-depth way. And there was more to this library that I won't tell you about because it really is, you feel like you've walked into a Harry Potter. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I find it fascinating that, all the Tauck passengers are inside and the other ones are on the outside looking in going, why can't I be there? And of course they can, they just have to book with you.
Exactly. And included, and they're not paying another extra, an extra bit of money to be able to do that, that we're not offering it in 2 ways. And the other thing I know with that one is that if you want to take photos, you have to pay a little extra. And with Tauck, we've included that as well too.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. And again, it's also sustainable for the places that we visit by arranging all of these special visits. It really does allow us to help sustain the places that we go, these beautiful museums, monuments. by doing it in such a way. And
Yeah.
again, here now we've got, if you've got people who, if you would like to bike around Europe, or walk more, we've got lots of inclusions of active components as well too, on both small ship and on river. So that's actually my brother-in-law on the right-hand side. We were on the Danube in April. It was a little chilly that day, hence he's dressed rather warmly. The week after we were there, it was 22 every day, but that particular day was a little bit chilly. But he opted for one of our guided cycling trips. And so one of our tour directors went with him, with the group. It wasn't just him. And then a local guide as well too. The shot on the left is the bicycles that travel with us on all of our river boats. So at any time, if you just, because I think sometimes there's that perception that if everything is included, I'll never have time to myself. And that's not true. There's always time to be able to relax, just sit in a coffee shop. And I always encourage that, because I think that's ultimately making the journey of your own, right? Rather than just a set. So there's always lots of opportunities. That's one of our directors there in the on the left-hand side. And so she's just providing a small map, a little bit of direction, but really if you're on the river or nearby, you're not going to get too lost. So but it allows you to go it off and do some things on your own. So as I said, all the excursions are included. The shot on the left is the Porsche. I think that's the Porsche, not the BMW, but we visit both museums on different itineraries. So again, there's an industrial museum that's offered as a choice one day. Again, just to give everybody the opportunity to really be able to see and do what they want to do, and not necessarily, what sort of is considered typical sightseeing. Or
I find it fascinating that you have the cooking for the cooking aficionados, and then you have the touring of the cars for the people who just love cars. So it's perfect for families. Amazing.
And it absolutely. And if I did forget to mention it, there's wine tastings in different places.
Oh, there you go. That just clinched it, right?
So I feel like we try to cover everybody's sort of interest. And obviously on the right-hand side, especially along the Danube, there are opportunities to learn more about the darker side of the history of that area. That's Mauthausen, which was a former work camp during the Second World War, actually near the end of the First World War, if I remember correctly, my history. So again, these are things that we know that maybe not everybody wants to go, or maybe isn't feeling that it's the right time for them to go. So again, these are offered as choices should they wish to do so. And again, depending on where we are around the world, lots of different things, and a variety of them, whether it's active ones, as you can see here. And we even try to do some kayaking on our river cruises from time to time when the weather works itself out. But again, this is, I'm going to guess, somewhere a bit warmer, perhaps Western Canada or something. But so I'll just kind of show you really quickly one of our river boats. And the reason I do this is mostly, again, just to reiterate that everything is included. So when I sailed in France on the Rhone in September, and there was a gentleman who was sailing with Tauck for the very first time, and he and my husband and my brother-in-law got into this big discussion about Scotch. And so they said, well, let's, go up to the lounge after dinner and we'll, try a couple of different ones. And they were like, oh, I wonder how much more that's going to be. And clearly this couple was in a position, that he already owned a few in his collection at home. But again, now he's stepping out of the moment to think about whether he wants to do this or not. He was hesitating. And my husband immediately said, no, it's all included. And it's not like they, drank the bottle dry. But again, it was just done to continue with the conversation. We talked about Scotland. We talked about, it's single malt when anyway, blah, blah, blah. And the bartender assisted with that part of the storytelling. And then, his wife just enjoyed a beautiful fancy coffee after dinner. And again, it's really just done to give people the opportunity to socialize, and then not worry about maybe who should pick up the tab, because that's always a very awkward situation, especially when you're meeting people for the first time. And we encourage people to make friends. So when we remove all of that for you, then there's none of that awkwardness. There's none of that just, hesitancy, because we've all been waiting a long time to travel. And
Oh,
when you
haven't we
get,
though? Goodness.
right.
And
And so
it's
when you,
time. It's time to get back
it
out.
it is. And the beautiful flowers, of course, as well, too. So
Yes.
the fresh flowers every day. There was an orchid in my bathroom, which was just, again, the little touches, I think, that really
Yeah.
add to everything.
Amazing. Yeah. I saw
And so
some
one,
orchids just recently and they were
did
what,
you?
$35 or something for like an orchid. And I thought,
Yeah,
oh, all these great cruise lines just include them. They're just
exactly.
beautiful there for you to just
They
enjoy and to smell
are.
and to see.
And
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
setting the atmosphere and really
Mhm.
allowing you to, again, just be relaxed and in the moment all the time.
It's all the
And
details.
exactly. And one of the ways that we're able to do all the wonderful things that we do and include the things and choices and active components and just different opportunities is that on all river and small ship, we have a team of directors. So here on the, this is on a photo I took a few years ago on the Danube. Now, of course, the gentleman with the stripes is not a tour director. That's the captain.
Yes.
So he wasn't part of the team, but
Mhm.
Jeremy in the lovely vest on the right was our cruise director, and then Anita and Emil were two of our tour directors. So again, with every river and small ship, we work as the directors work as a team, and again, all their gratuities are included, so there's no expectation or sort of, oh, if you feel that somebody needs a little something extra, we really discourage it. Obviously some people still do, but we really don't encourage it because it's done and arranged so that the team will work together. And that way then no one's trying to sort of be the bigger or the brighter. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it is just a really great group of directors. And again, they just add lots of wonderful things on small ship and on river. We bring people on lectures, people to enhance the journey. Sometimes it's our directors themselves. I was on one a few years ago with one of our directors, Monica, who's from Romania, and she actually hosted a chat one afternoon when we were sailing about the Wonder Women of World War II. Absolutely fascinating, and told from her perspective growing up in Romania. So I have to tell you that most of the people she spoke about, these were women I knew nothing about. And I felt like not that I'm an expert by any stretch, but certainly read lots of World War II in my book club. And so we're always sort of learning more about that. And then we have wonderful local guides. Obviously, we need them to really bring that local flavor wherever we have to be in the world. And we use the boxes. You can see a photo of them there with, again, allowing guests to kind of wander and not necessarily have to stand up close to hear everything, which in the world we live in today is a great enhancement. So again, they just love to bring the little things. We work very closely. We choose very carefully our local guides to ensure that we're working with people that really do bring the local stories. And always with any presentation, I love to just talk about the little things, because as Arthur Tauck always reminds us, that the guests come to us for the big stuff that they can read about in the brochure, on the website, or by talking to other people, but they come back to Tauck because of the little things that we include. So water, there's on the river boats now, we provide you with a reusable water bottle. There's refilling stations. Most of the small ships do that as well too. But even if you forget, on our coaches, there's always water. You'll never have to buy it. And again, it's a little thing. It's a couple of euros or a euro. But it's just that extra little thing you have to think about. And when you don't, it makes it fun. And when I was on the Rhone a couple of months ago, we were out for a full afternoon off the ship, and JP decided that we needed a little something on the way back to the ship. And so he had gone into town and purchased these fabulous local cookies that then at the next stop, we all went off and bought cases of these cookies. I think I just finished my last one. But again, I traveled recently with a friend on another cruise line. And so one afternoon I was like, where's my cookie? Again, it's just not what everybody thinks about, because it's not the focus of what they offer, not to detract from any of them. But again, I think it's always about what's important to you. You know, how big a bill do you want at the end of the trip? And as one lady said, she always felt that traveling on Tauck gave her that opportunity to go shopping and buy a few more things that she might not have, because you know, no one's going to notice a little bit of this or that on my visa bill when I get home, when I don't have all these added drinks and excursions.
Well,
So
exactly. You know, what she had put aside to cover her onboard bill, she could now spend for something else
in the
to
gift
give to
shop.
relatives or for herself. So yeah, why not?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And as I said earlier, you know, one of the ways we distinguish ourselves from our cruise partners, who obviously sell itineraries themselves, is that we package it with land. So we package it with hotels. Again, why? Because you should spend more time in Edinburgh. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world, or Paris, or London, or, you know, wherever we might be, or Prague. So we work with some of the most iconic hotel chains in the world, particularly in Europe. And again, well, having said that, you know, the Belmont hotels when we're in Peru. So it really is working again with different partners and companies and locations. To really enjoy the different places that we visit. And of course, at the beginning and the end of every trip, this is really, I think, again, we start things off. So this is actually a photo of me when I was on the Rhone this year. And I have to tell you, when you come off a plane and you've been flying all night, we all haven't done it in a while. And so you're a little discombobulated. You're trying to remember if you've got all the, and exactly, you're exhausted. And then you're trying to remember where it is on your phone and what paperwork you need. And truly hats off to you, Kathleen, because I know that you work with all of your clients to make sure.
Yes.
So when they're a little tired, then they're trying to find it all. And then they come out and there's a sign with their name on it, and this wonderful gentleman, lady that's picking you up. It's so nice. You just settle down. There's water, there's hand sanitizer, and you can just go, I'm here.
I'm here. Yes, you can breathe a sigh of relief and say, it's taken care of. I don't even need to think about what paperwork needs to be on the top.
Exactly. And it's when you arrive, it's not like you've landed and the next transfer is not for another 3 hours or 2 hours or even an hour for the in most part. Occasionally I've had to wait maybe for another couple that might have got held up a little bit, you know, coming through customs, but truly never really had to wait very long at all. And in most cases, it's really just the people that I was traveling with. And so it's the same at the beginning and the end. And in Europe, quite often we'll pick you up, drop you off at train stations because because
And
again, it lends itself.
The trains of Europe too is quite a sight and an experience.
Exactly. So as I said, truly everything I talk about, so it's not like I've tried to tease anybody to say, oh, you know, we're going to take you to this beautiful chateau for lunch or for dinner. There's no surprises. The surprises that you get on a Tauck trip are the fun, the good ones. It's not like, oh, you know, yeah, we know we showed you that, but you know, now here's
but
how
that's
much
only available on this particular sailing on this date.
Right. Exactly.
It's not like that. So that's
yeah. So again, it's really about that's Montenegro.
Consistency across the board, that it all includes it. It's wonderful.
Exactly. And I think that's really the key with anything. So as I mentioned to you earlier, Kathleen, so for anyone listening in and decides they want to make a booking between now and the end of this year, we don't discount, we don't offer, you know, specials. So it doesn't matter when you decide to book the trip with Kathleen. It's really what we'll be able to do, or what I can offer to you, is a complimentary hotel night to give you more time in the destination, either pre or post. In fact, one advisor called me, I remember, and she said, oh, you know, the post hotel is a little more expensive than the pre. So do they have to take the pre? And it's like, no. So it can be a Four Seasons. Exactly. And the only caveat that's in the little terms and conditions at the bottom is that it is subject to availability with our hotel contract. So we don't offer credit if it isn't, because we're limited with often. And again, we usually have enough for everybody, but it encourages you to just book a little bit early just to make sure that you get the hotel choice that you want. And again, that'll still include the transfers and breakfast in the morning and a little more time maybe to wander around or enjoy more of a city that you loved at the end, or give you that opportunity at the beginning to really kind of catch your breath and
acclimate to the
And
new
then
time zone and just to relax.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Fabulous. Well,
exactly,
thank
exactly. You're so welcome, and thank
Oh
you
my
all for joining in and listening in
goodness.
whenever that might be. Here's a great shot of one of the I think that's the Penant ship, although that actually looks on a river, so I'm going to say that maybe that's
No,
on the
no, I see
Douro.
the word Penant on the pool, I think.
Oh, there you
At the
go.
bottom. So
So
yeah.
that's one of the Penant ships then.
Mhm.
They do have the infinity pools now at the back of the ship on all of their new expedition ones. So
Wow. And
um,
can you imagine like going up and just sitting in an infinity pool, relaxing and looking at that surroundings?
yeah, exactly,
It's like
exactly.
that
So
spot's mine. I'm going. Let's go.
mhm. And exactly. And so I hope that everybody is able to get back out on the road traveling to different destinations. And thank you so much, Kathleen, for everything you're doing. It helps keeping our industry sort of going forward and answering all the not so fun questions. But hopefully I've given people an opportunity to sort of see something a bit different and a little more definition about what the words all inclusive
Right.
actually mean.
Really means.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I can't thank you enough for putting all that together and presenting, taking your time out. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you
Everybody have
so.
a great week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this week's cruise chat with Charmaine from Tauck Cruises. It was really nice to see almost everything, like to see everything that is included in their all-inclusive cruises. Quite frequently, that term is kind of thrown around in the cruise industry, and it's really nice to see what's all included and what's not, and everything is laid out so that there's absolutely no surprises at the end. And if you're listening to this on our Cruising the Waves podcast and you want to see some of the images, head on over to our YouTube channel, Plenty of Sunshine Travel on YouTube. Or the other way, if you'd like to listen to this on the go and you'd love to listen to any of our cruise chats on our podcast, it is Cruising the Waves podcast. So head on over to your favorite channel. I've got them pretty much on all of the channels that there is. So by all means, check it out and just download it and listen to it on the go. We have over 70 episodes up on our YouTube channel already, over 70, and a ton more planned. Right now, at time of doing this, it's December that I met with Charmaine, and I am scheduled all the way to the end of May. So there's going to be a ton more episodes coming out. Next week, I'm going to be meeting with Celestial Cruises, and this is the first time I'm meeting with them. So that's kind of exciting. I love meeting with new cruise lines. I love learning. I'm kind of a geek that way. So it's awesome that we get to meet. And because it's the first time that I'm talking with them, we're going to be doing a really good brand overview. So we're going to be covering what's included in their cruises, what's not, what their ship looks like, basically where they sail, just a great brand overview. So make sure you join us next week. And the best way to see all of our videos is to subscribe to our channel. So we'd really love it if you subscribe to our channel, and then that way you will get the notification when a brand new video comes out. I do aim to put them out every Thursday. There is times that I'm delayed. This past week, I was just working so crazy hard with getting all of my clients' cruises booked and getting them in there that I just didn't come up for air to get this uploaded essentially until Saturday. And that's super late for me. So I apologize for that, but I do put customers first. I will always, always, always put my clients first. And that's what they expect. And that's what I'm going to give them at all times. So unfortunately, the video was late, but if you subscribe to our channel, then you'll know the second it comes out. It's typically every single Thursday, but like I said, life happens and we get busy. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Goodbye, everybody.